Good.
Morning.
How are you today?
It's a beautiful day. That's all I can say.
That's good to say if you're in Chicago. How
Well,
did
plus
Go
it's
ahead.
it's Cubs Day today, right? The Cubs are on their way to win the World Series. So
And what are we at? We're at what's the game score now? Is it 3-2 Indians?
yes,
Okay.
yes, correct. Yeah. So
I'm trying not to even think about it too much because I'll jinx them. What's your thoughts on that? You think they can pull it out? They were the favorite coming into this, weren't they?
yes, they were. I'm not a big baseball. I mean, I'm a baseball fan, but I don't know much about the sport in general. So I just go with what the papers say. They were supposed to clinch it, but it doesn't look to me now that they're going to win it. So, but who
Uh,
knows? Hopefully, I'm wrong.
Well, for people who aren't really involved with the Cubs or have not touched Chicago really in their lifetime, that is a scene up there at Wrigley Field. I mean, I know you've been
Yeah,
there quite a few
yeah.
times, but it's just an afternoon game at Wrigley. God, that's what do they call that? The world's biggest
I
party,
don't
or
know.
I forgot, I don't know
Yeah,
what they call it.
bar, whatever it is. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
for those viewers who have never been to it, it's actually located right in a residential area of the city, and
Hmm.
the stadium is surrounded by bars.
Yeah.
So it becomes a magnet for people to go to, and because it's in the city, it has such a great vibe that it becomes one big party. And supposedly, for game three of the series, which took place on Friday, there were
Hmm.
almost 400,000 people in that area of the city, which is crazy because
Good Lord.
that area does not lend itself to that many people. And some of the bars surrounding the stadium
Hmm.
open up at 8 a.m. in the morning and charge $250 as a cover to get in.
Oh
That's
my
not for this. That's not for the stadium. That's to get into a bar adjacent to the stadium to watch it
oh
on
my
TV.
God. Well, that's what's that? That's on Clark Avenue up there, or
Yeah,
North Clark or whatever.
yeah, Clark and Addison. Yes,
Right.
yeah,
I
yeah.
used to live. I know you. Well, obviously you know the area well, but I used to live in Lincoln Park up there for a while, and one of the areas that I lived in Chicago, and I was just shocked. I mean, one of the cool things about. I mean, if you love sports, I mean, Chicago it really doesn't get any better because you can get on the blue line, go see a Cubs game. What 2L stops north from downtown, and then you can head down south on the red line, maybe 4 stops, and see a Sox game. Like
Yeah, well, I personally would take the purple or the brown line, but yes, something like that. I
yeah.
actually don't take the L much, so I actually don't really know exactly, but um, something like that, yes,
Well, if you live in the Loop, I mean, it's one of the easier cities to get around in. It's very cool.
for sure.
And
Yeah,
then obviously you got the Soldier Field right there at Grant Park, which is it's
yeah,
just awesome.
right.
Um,
That's a temple of joy to Chicago. Not this year, but perhaps next year again,
yeah.
because the Bears are doing so great this year.
And then people don't realize that, like the lake too in the background. I mean, in the right time of year. I mean, it looks like you're
Oh
in the
yeah,
Bahamas. I mean, that blue
yes.
hue to that lake is people don't really realize that. It's just unbelievable.
Yes, it's all these zebra mussels which are eating up all the plankton, so the fish can't survive anymore.
Uh,
But it
which
looks really
clears the
clean.
water. Yeah.
Exactly. So it looks really clean, but not necessarily for the right reason, but yes.
Well, now that we've covered all that,
Right.
um, what's on your mind this morning? Because the, a lot of political situations going on that are still up in the air. Before, I mean, yeah, just we
Yes.
could have a whole day talk about that. But I was, really thinking, Steve, that there's really no way to take I mean, I think a position on the long side right now is just kind of really scary. What do you think here? What like before the election? Obviously, we might have some serious volatility. But how do you think this thing pans out as far as the S&Ps go in the volatility scene?
Well, I mean, volatility in general has been rising really since Friday. So when the whole Clinton saga started all over again, there was a
Hmm.
huge spike in volatility, and some of the shorter-term volatility indicators are flashing red for all intended purposes. So short-term volatility is not trading at a significant premium to longer-term volatility. And that is usually only the case when the market is under very serious duress, or there's a major macro event shaping up which might unhinge the market. And that's precisely what we have right now, correct? I mean, there's the election on the 8th, and volatility has responded accordingly. How it's going to shape up at the end of the day, it's like flipping a coin, right? I mean, so you can take a bet or you stay out of it.
Well, I mean, as a trader right now, do you just kind of, are the odds in your favor just to kind of sit on the sidelines and do nothing? Or is there any, strategy like or upcoming political voting strategy that you can take? I tell you what, we got to go to break. Steve, can you hang out?
All right.
Maybe we can get that question answered. Okay,
sure.
We'll be right back, guys.
Okay.
TFNN is excited to offer a brand new piece of market scanning software unlike anything the industry has ever seen. John Logan and his team have spent years developing their market profile tools to finally be able to release the TAS Profile Scanner Plus. And right now you can get a 2-week trial absolutely free just by visiting TFNN.com and providing us your name and email address. The TAS Profile Scanner Plus is the premier market profile based scanner in the industry. Powered by the acclaimed TAS proprietary algorithms, this feature-rich scanner is a standalone desktop software that instantly filters over 2,500 global financial markets such as stocks, ETFs, commodity futures, and Forex. Within 3 minutes of signing up, you can have the software downloaded and running on your computer with a complete roadmap of market indicators and inflection points to trade off using the TAS Profile Scanner Plus. Sign up today and try this amazing piece of software by visiting TFNN.com.
Tiger TV is an exciting way to experience TFNN programming. See high-definition video, giving you crystal clear charts, as well as seeing some of the faces of TFNN's highly acclaimed financial experts with crisp, full-fidelity sound. Catch Tom O'Brien, John Logan, Steve Rhodes, Basil Chapman, Larry Pesavento, Think or Swim, David White, Andy Hecht, and Daryl Martin in crystal clear, high-definition audio and video. Tiger TV, exclusively at TFNN.com. Platinum, grains, crude oil, gold, copper, cattle, hogs, gasoline, natural gas, coffee, cotton, cocoa, and sugar. These are just some of the commodities mentioned in the most recent issue of Andy Hecht's Techno-Mental Commodity Report. Andy publishes his weekly newsletter every Thursday morning, where he breaks down the commodity market and provides his subscribers with specific trading recommendations based on his trading methodology. By signing up for a free trial to the Techno-Mental Commodity Report, you'll get a full 30 days to try out this powerful newsletter service and see for yourself the types of trades Andy has recommended for his subscribers. When you sign up for a 30-day free trial, you're under no obligation to pay anything. And should you decide to continue, you will lock in the low rate of only $79 a month. Sign up right now for the Techno-Mental Commodity Report and make sure you're ready to catch the next big trade in commodities. For more information and to get started today, visit the front page of TFNN.com. Many of our new listeners have heard about the Tiger's Den, but wondered, what exactly is it? The Tiger's Den is a lively community where professional traders and investors can meet, exchange ideas and information in a comfortable, moderated atmosphere. Hear all of your favorite TFNN shows, plus see all the charts as they happen live during those shows and have access to all those charts. You can test drive the Tiger's Den absolutely free for 30 days. It will greatly enrich your knowledge of these markets. Details on the Tiger's Den are on the front page of TFNN.com. John takes your phone calls now. Toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the show. We've got Steve Benger on with us today. And Steve, the question right before we close the last segment is, we've Joey actually has come on and kind of validated one of the things that you've been talking about. He's like, what are some of the best trades on the books? We've talked about the yen, the dollar, and then just basically the VIX trade, not necessarily trying to pick a direction on the S&Ps right now, but I'm showing on my screen right now, the kind of the long-term December contract weekly view, kind of lower highs, higher lows, kind of coming into a point in the November 8th situation coming up. How could somebody take advantage of anything right now, or should they just kind of wait and see?
I mean, history has taught us that betting on major political events, which can become a towing cost or are towing costs, is really never a good strategy. But there are two scenarios, right? The first scenario is Trump wins. And the market seems to think that a Trump win would be bad for stocks. So, and I think there's one strategy people can use if they want to play that. I think going into a potential Trump win, buying some S&P puts, just straight puts, but also buying some biotech calls. Might be a good strategy. Biotech calls, because biotechs have been hammered in anticipation
completely
of big cuts in the reimbursement rates under the Clinton administration. And if Trump were to win, that should reverse itself out. So you have the ability to play this hedge that you say, okay, the market might break down if Trump is going to win, but biotechs should really go up against the grain if Trump wins too. So I think that is a nice setup if somebody really wants to be aggressive about it. On the Clinton side, I think it's a bit more difficult because just looking at the market in general, the market has formed this triangle, this wedge formation, has broken out of the wedge, has caught itself again at that one last line of support, but really is not in what I like to call a stable territory. So the market in general looks really weak. And I'm not so sure that despite a Clinton presidency, the market is not going to go down. So my bias in the market is down regardless. So
mine is too.
I'm glad to hear that.
Everything you said, it's definitely hitting home because, the risk is to get long, I think, like you said.
Yeah. The market, if you look at it from the chart perspective, we had this wedge formation, the market brought out of the wedge. It stopped right at that last line of support, and the bounce off that line was anything but inspiring confidence, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we are stuck in no man's land right now, and if we break to the downs, it's not going to be 4% or 2%. It's going to go, in my opinion.
I'm with you, man. I think that my opinion, just like yours, the risk is to get long here. But how do you take advantage of it and kind of hedge your bets if it's possible? I haven't looked, and I know you kind of watch these options volatilities a little bit more than I do, as far as the different components of what's going on with the options and the pricing. But even though the market is contracted, have you noticed any anomalies going on with kind of near-term volatility, long-term volatility, things like that?
Ever since last Friday, volatility has really increased throughout the curve, and quite a bit actually. So volatility has definitely been picking up, which would indicate that a bigger market move is expected. One way to play those type of events, and I want to be careful about it, right? Because you're really taking a shot at something which is not in your control. But one way to play that type of event is to play calendar spreads. And what I mean with that is you could theoretically sell VIX calls, perhaps 40% out of the money, something like that, with an expiry date of the 11th, which is a Friday after the election, and buy calls in the following week. And the rationale behind it is that we might get a big move in volatility to the upside, but you should be so far out of the money that the October 11 call is going to expire worthless. But the October 18th call should pick up quite a bit of value because volatility, when it rises, should then create some significant profits in those. And
it'll just get dumped over.
Yeah, so in case the market completely falls apart, which I don't believe it will, but in case it completely falls apart and the S&P is down 10%, which I think is not very likely scenario, because you have a calendar spread, your risk is really limited to the amount, to the premium difference between selling the options and what you have to buy on the longer dated calls. So it's a limited risk trade, but I think it is something which can go 300% or so if volatility really picks up.
Is it even worth doing that type of trade on both sides, or is it, trying to do some kind of, counter spread, complete neutrality type thing? Like you said, a little bit out of the money, but would it be worth it even trying it on the upside there?
Well, it is, but one of the problems or one of the advantages when you play volatility is that there's a natural floor to that market, and that floor usually comes in, let's say, around 13, right? I mean, so volatility will bomb down to 13, but then it has to work its way lower. But even if it works its way lower, it's not going to go down to 8; it's going to go down to 12. Right, so there's this natural floor in volatility. So that strategy definitely can work, but it's just not as rewarding as if it were to work on the upside. So it does work too, but playing on both sides, I mean, you really take away from the profit potential. But it's one way to play it, for sure.
Okay.
So.
Thanks for pointing out that XLV situation, because that's obviously, and I've been watching that in the scanner. I think we talked about it actually a little bit yesterday. That has just been hammered. And some of the instruments in there, have you kind of drilled deeper into, that's kind of a default thing.
If you don't mind, just pull up Kite, Kite.
Okay. We have about 20 seconds before break, but I really want you to hang out if you can through the break to talk about this. But here's Kite on the long term. I'm showing the weekly right now. Okay.
All right. So Kite is one of those stocks. It's a biotech, which is really. Is that Kite? Yeah, that's it. Okay.
Okay, hang on, Steve. We're going to be right back, guys. Give us about 3 minutes, and we're going to pick this up when we come back.
Okay.
If you're an active trader looking for that extra edge when it comes to trading and investments, then now is a great time to get a 2-week free trial to Tom O'Brien's daily market letter, Market Insights. Tom O'Brien's daily newsletter, Market Insights, comes out every market day at around 9:30 a.m. and provides Tom's daily commentary on the broad market, including the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P, plus specific trade recommendations. There's even an update published most afternoons to keep you informed about the day's market activity. He'll give you the entry price, price target, and stop price of each stock and option trade. With Market Insights, there's nothing left to guessing. For all the details and to get your 2-week free trial to Market Insights started today, visit tfnn.com.
Today, it's hard to tell if the economy is coming or going. Regardless, I want my money going in the direction I choose. If that's your stance as well, then you want to know how Everbank can help keep your money thriving just the way you want. Is growing your money a priority? Everbank is committed to a yield pledge promise to pay high yields on your checking, money market, and CD balances. Looking to diversify? Everbank ingeniously developed accessible ways to spread your money around the world into foreign currencies and even non-FDIC insured metals. And And when it comes to your wealth, they bring a highly experienced and global perspective to help you manage it. Everbank's financial philosophy flies in the face of the status quo. They believe your money's performance should not be determined by today's economic circumstances, but by the drive to rise above them and create opportunities that favor your objectives. If that excites you, like it does me, call 1-855-750-4051 to find out what they can do for you. That's 1-855-750-4051. Call them today. Everbank is a member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Until recently, it was almost impossible for the average investor to hedge against currency risk in Europe or Japan. For a bold trade on Europe or Japan that protects against moves in currency, trade HEGE or HEGJ, 2 times currency hedged leveraged ETFs from Direction Investments. Visit directioninvestments.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction shares at 866-476-7523. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
This segment is brought to you by Think or Swim. For more information, just click the Think or Swim banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the show. We've got Steve Benger on with us this morning. And, Steve, my e-signal rebooted here. Let me pull Kite back up, K-I-T-E. We're getting ready to get into this. And this is a biotech stock, and I'm going to let you take it from here. Got it back up on the screen.
All right. So, and I think that's first a pretty good illustration of what is wrong with the biotech sector right now. Can you go back a little bit longer? By any chance? Yeah, perfect. All right.
K-I-T-E?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's it. So,
okay.
So Kite is a biotech which is developing or has been developing an immunotherapy which can be used to treat Hodgkin's lymphoma and other blood cancer diseases. And they came out with stage 2 trials and really knocked it out of the ballpark. That is 35% remission rate, 100% remission rate,
wow.
and another 34% partial remission rate. And these were stage 4, stage 5 patients for whom really there was no other valid therapy available anymore. So by all accounts and purposes, it is a huge medical advance, and it clearly works. And the stock barely went up to $60. It basically went from 50 to 60. That's what you see on that when your chart is green. And ever since, it's been trending down. And looking at this, I think the only conclusion is that the general market environment is so weak in the sector because of pricing pressure that you really cannot be long it. I mean, if Kite, which I really consider to be one of the best of the breed, can buck the trend, I mean, any of those things which are in development and where the revenue outlook is shaky and where validity has not really been proven yet, I mean, there's no upside here under Clinton administration. Right. And I think it's one of those stocks when and if Trump comes in, huge upside. Because it's not, you know what I'm talking about, right? So it's not the medical or viability of the treatment which is reflecting the stock price. It's the revenue outlook.
Yeah, I mean, and that goes back to, Trump winning, if Trump wins, God, I mean, so many mechanisms, are kind of like already in place that might disengage and, relative to what you said about, Hillary coming in. What do you think? Like, I look at Paddy Power out of UK betting, I look at like 4 or 5 different political betting sites.
Mm-hmm.
The odds are starting to change a little bit, but what really do you think the odds are that he would somehow win the presidency?
All right. If you would have asked me 10 days ago, I would have said Clinton is going to win it. It might be close, but she's going to win it. But two things happened last week which changed my mind. First one is I watched that Michael Moore 2-minute video, which has been circulating on Facebook, and I would strongly encourage everybody who hasn't seen it to go and look at it. I mean, clearly Michael Moore is not a Republican, right? He's a Democrat, and he makes the argument in that video that Trump is going to win it because of how the homeland of this country has gotten the finger for 20 years. And it's a very passionate plea or explanation, I should say, but I think there's a lot of truth in what he's saying. So that really got me thinking. And then the other day I got back into my car, and my car still set on AM radio because I had been listening to one of the Cubs games while driving. And it just happened to be that Sean Hannity had his show up.
Okay.
And I usually never listen to the guy, not because I don't like him, also just because I just don't listen to AM radio.
Right.
And he went through all the polls out there for the individual state races and talked about what Trump has to win and the margin of error versus the lead Clinton has right now in any of those states. And even though from like a bird's eye view, it looks like Clinton has a very solid lead in the electorate, once you really go into the state-by-state polls, and that is what he did last week, you realize that a lot of races are within the margin of error. And that in combination with what Michael Moore said kind of changed my mind, because one of the key things Moore said is that a lot of people who have never voted before are very motivated to come out this time around because they really feel that for once they have the ability to show the establishment the finger. And I think he's right on that one. I think there are a lot of people who are going to come out of the woods who are not reflecting the polls right now and going to vote. I really believe that.
I think there's 4 or 5 points, just like you said, exactly what you just said. Anybody who is for Trump is going to make sure they get to the poll or send in the ballot or whatever. And then, the people who aren't as convicted, especially, I don't know how, I don't know what the conviction rate is on Hillary for people who just would vote Democrat normally, but there's a good possibility they a lot of those people, it's too much trouble, the line's too long or whatever, and they might not vote. And again, I think there's, just like some of the polls, a lot of these states Trump wasn't supposed to win in the primaries, but he kind of won them in landslides sometimes, and that was because of that conviction, deep.
Right.
Got to go to the poll. I'm going to, give the finger to the establishment type thing, like you're talking about.
And just think about what a poll is. It's 1,000 people giving an opinion, which is nothing in terms of like actual number. How do they get to the 1,000 people? It's prior voting behavior. It's likely voters. For the most part, that is what those polls are. So anybody who's voted in the past couple of elections is supposedly being reflected in those polls. But that's not the issue, right? The argument is that a lot of people are going to come out which have not voted before. And it doesn't need to be a lot of people because those polls are close anyhow. Or what it needs like an additional couple of percent here and there, and Trump is going to win it. And I think that unaccounted for electorate, the way the polls are designed nowadays, is just not being considered. So,
and that gives us more and more reason. That gives us more and more reasons to do the volatility trade. Because just like the Brexit thing, the people, a possible reason that kind of flipped into the exit state that it's in right now is because the people had those deep convictions. They definitely went there, and the polls, really had that kind of wrong way skewed to them because of everything you just said. And I think this is a very similar situation.
Yeah, I think it's even actually more, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I think it's more because the way our polls are designed, right? It's all about like past voting behavior. So if you haven't voted in the past couple of elections, you're just not part of the polls.
Right. And, we were talking on this show about, buying some lottery tickets just in case on the Brexit. And you know what happened to, the pound? I mean, that thing was down 1,000 pips or so, wasn't it? I can't remember. Yeah. That was just like make your whole that was a make your decade trade.
Steve, I like to call it a widow maker.
Hey, thanks for coming on today, man.
All right. Perfect.
Great conversation. Okay.
Likewise.
Guys, we'll be right back. Thank you very much, Steve Benger.